It's what day? Tuesday edition here on Zero Block 30. And today we have 5 rounds in the magazine. Round number 1, there was trouble on the high seas, but it wasn't because our beloved Navy Coast Guard. Many people are saying it was your daddy that caused the Evergreen. Is that what it's called? Evergreen? No. Is green?
Yeah, I think so. That's what's on the side of it. It says Evergreen on the side.
Okay. All right. Many people are saying it was your daddy that caused the Evergreen to get stuck, but it could have been your mummies. Wait till you hear round 1. Round number 2, Friday. It's a Friday on Friday's show. We told you about a delusional old fuck who pulled weapons on the National Guard members so that they couldn't transport the COVID vaccine. Now we got some fellas in Maine who basically went the entire opposite direction. Round number 3, the military should use a method taken advantage of by a mechanic shop in Georgia when shitbags get their DD-214 and their final pay and allowances. And round number 4, we're going to do another edition of Ask ZBT where we took to the listeners and got some questions. We're going to do that in round 4. And finally, round number 5. 76 years ago this week, the Marines defeated the Japanese on Iwo Jima. And a new ZBT tradition, we're going to hear from the last living Marine who was awarded the Medal of Honor. That's Woody Williams. You're going to hear his story in round number 5. And all of that is going to be brought to you by, well, before we get there, I have to say, moving in and doing all this stuff, even though it has been a nightmare, I have seen work ethic that has made me so happy.
On whose behalf?
Well, one of the guys that I got from TaskRabbit was awesome. I got another dude that just moved down here from New York that I had to switch out, just like some real simple shit. Like I had to switch out a couple toilets and just stuff that's time consuming that I could do, but I just don't want to I don't have time to put in like 2 hours to do that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So like they come in, they give you $20 an hour and they do it in like 2 hours, $40 to put in 2 toilets. Come on. Like that's
a good deal. Right there. That's a great deal.
But this dude, even though he's working by the hour, flying up and down my stairs, getting after it, going. He's like, I don't waste time. He's like, I try to get as many tasks as I've done, which I understand from a contractor perspective. Usually you get paid by the job, so you do it really fast so you can move on to but when you're getting paid by the hour, buddy, have a cigarette break. Just like, take it easy for a
well, but who knows? Maybe he's got jobs all over town and he doesn't want to waste his time.
Yeah, or wants to come back. Because that would be something. If somebody was moving fucking slow, I'd be like, you slow little bitch. How dare you? Especially when they're not wearing Rocky boots. I have been tempted because I have so many pairs of Rocky boots because we're going to start doing long time Thule stuff. Kyle's actually going to come down here and we're going to shoot some more vids. They sent me so many boots that I'm thinking about sizing up the different folks who work here or like that are doing stuff. Be like, what? You look like you're about a size 11. You want some of these boots? Because I just have so many boots, man. I'm going to have to give them out. But if you want some and I'm not going to give them to you, you might want to go to rockyboots.com and enter the promo code ZBT. You're going to get 25% off. They have it for every branch of service, no matter what branch you're in. I bet they even have stuff with space boots. They're going to have space boots soon. They should. They should make Rocky boots, moon boots. Is what they should do for the space people. Boots. And with the new career day that we have coming up, we already have locked on a Space Force Bubba that's going to come in and talk about what they do in space every day. Hopefully he wears Rocky boots too. You should too. rockyboots.com in the promo code ZBT at checkout for 25% off every single branch of the military, no matter what you're doing. You can wear Rocky boots if you're just fucking around in your shed, if you're doing yard work, if you're doing just a little casual. They even have like regular old tennis shoes now that I was wearing the other day. They're gray and red. They're beautiful. You have to get some too. rockyboots.com and then promo code ZBT for 25% off. Let's get started with the show. I'm finally at the point where I feel like this is a little bit of home, where I'm in my spot. I'm feeling back like I have to get back in the old blogging factory again. Things are going to get normal. I guess Kate's doing well. Kate was supposed to come on Friday's show. I haven't talked to her since. She was like, sure, send me the Zoom link. I'd love to hang out with you fellas. Haven't heard from her since.
I guarantee though, while she's saying, while she's saying that, in her head, she's thinking, I have no intention of joining them at all. But she's still, for whatever reason, she shouldn't feel obligated. But for whatever reason, she still doesn't feel comfortable saying no. So she just felt probably obligated to say, "Oh yeah, sure."
It was her idea. I wouldn't have even broached it. She was like, "Yeah, shoot me the link whenever you guys. I'd love to catch up. Tell a listener what I've been doing the first couple of days on maternity leave." And I was like, "Well, I let you do that. It's going to be me standing in front of the Sergeant Major. Like, why are you messing with her on fucking maternity leave?" That's what I had to answer that question to Erica. Erica was like, "When is Kate going to be back?" It's like, "Isn't that a question for HR? That's not me. I don't know. Or
isn't that a question for Kate? Maybe."
I don't know when she's going to be back. I don't even know what our maternity leave policy is. I think Kate's going to write it.
So many people have asked me, like, "Oh, so what's Barstool's maternity policy?" I'm like, I don't know that we actually have one.
Well, we definitely don't. We just got our first like full-time HR person like a year ago.
Yeah, but we're a little behind the times in regards to that. But I just assume maybe they just use whatever's pens.
And I wish Kate was here, honestly, because it would be a perfect introduction to the first round, because she talked a lot about constipation and things getting stuck. And in the Suez Canal, there was a big old ship that got stuck this week. That's what we're going to talk about in round number 1, because after a grueling 6 days, and we're not talking about labor, crews have managed to wrench the Evergreen.
Yeah, that's what it was. I knew Evergreen didn't sound right. I just couldn't remember.
But it's on the side of it. Evergreen's on the side of the ship.
I think that's the actual company. Evergreen is the company and Evergiven is the actual ship. Okay. That's a big fucking ship, though. That's a BFS is what they call that in the biz. It's huge. So it's been freed after 6 days. They're finally letting all the other ships go through. Now that the ship is underway, thanks to high tides and a fleet of tugboats and dredgers, hundreds of vessels that have been stranded on either side of the canal are gearing up to resume their journey along the vital shipping corridor. It marks the end of an agonizing week for the maritime trade industry, one that saw losses as high as $10 billion per day, highlighted the frailty of an already strained global supply chain and spurred a slew of incredible memes. I mean, it is really shocking at how this could happen. And I've been the Texas dad at like a boat ramp whenever you're just backing in an old shitty boat and waiting for the other dudes who have been essentially backing in boats since they're like 6 years old, waiting for me to go. This captain must have felt like the biggest fucking loser in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, listen, far be it for me to judge, because I've never steered a ship that large, but I have to imagine.
But even so, you have to know, if you look on one side of the Suez Canal, the other side, be like, this probably isn't the place for a 3-point turn.
Yeah. No, all right. So here's what I need to understand, and hopefully one of you two knows the answer to this, because I haven't done anything beyond just looking at all the memes. I never read really how it happened, how he got himself stuck.
So
I don't know either. I mean, I would imagine this isn't the first. They've been going through this Suez Canal for fucking generations.
Yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. Like, it's very clearly not big enough for a turn. So I think something had to have happened.
A sandstorm with 40-mile-per-hour winds.
Oh, so you can't fly a helicopter in a sandstorm, and you can't because there's so limited visibility. But you would think even in that, well, maybe I guess their old ass equipment probably went off, because you would still think that their GPS could guide them down.
Well, I think what he was trying to do was like turn himself into the wind so that he wouldn't get pushed over into the bank. And then it just caught him and turned him lopsided wise. And, now the internet's been on fire.
I just can't imagine how shitty that feels.
How helpless.
And then you look in your rear view mirror and you're like, oh, that's the entire global economy behind me. You get the news reports. If he's sitting there in his little Starship Trooper, like fucking glass area where he's checking out everything, and he's seeing these reports from like the BBC that there's a ship. There was one ship completely full with nothing but bunnies, dude. Like just bunnies. There's a bunny ship. There's a chicken ship. There's a cow ship.
Why are we shipping those animals?
Because this is just a flat out fucking guess. But what I would think is that if you're shipping chickens, from like Turkey to Egypt, you want those chickens fresh as possible. Because once you start cutting their heads off, the time starts ticking.
That's true. Now, is it me, or does just shipping in general seem like a very archaic way of getting things from one place to another? Now, I get it. These are very large containers.
But I understand what you're saying. Like trains. We still use trains.
Yeah.
Well, because trains are...
You're making a bunch of forks and you're going to throw it on a train so it can get from Arizona to North Carolina?
Stuff.
No, I get it. No, listen. And those containers are so huge when you consider how much they can move in a relatively short period of time. But to me, in 2021, it just seems as though shipping doesn't feel quick. I don't know.
No, it's definitely not quick. I mean,
I feel like it's super quick.
We're back. No, we're fucking backers on this one tool that we signed up for like last year. And they're like, they're shipping from China now. They're going to be in the United States in 8 weeks. I'm like, 8 weeks? They put it on fucking Huck Finn's raft? Like Huck Finn is going to be barefoot on that with Jim? Like pulling the toys over here? Like, you can't do that. That's way too long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. It's not that fast, but for as much stuff that moves, it's not too bad.
It is a lot of shit for sure. But everybody knows about this ship. That's what's going on here. But a string of unfortunate and tragic events in Egypt, including a blockage of the Suez Canal, and are unrelated to the curse of the pharaohs, according to renowned Egyptologist Zai Hawass. He says,
that guy.
Yeah, the former antiques minister remarks that the world looks at the Egypt Suez Canal, where a shipping container was blocked for 1 week. More tragically, scores of people have already been killed after a fatal train crash, killing 18 in Cairo. A fire also ravaged shops in Egypt, and a partially constructed bridge collapsed in Egypt. With Egypt preparing its unprecedented Pharaoh's Golden Gate parade, with the transfer of 22 royal mummies to Egypt's new museum in April, some have speculated that the plans had triggered an ancient curse. In particular, social media users have focused their attention on an inscription allegedly written on the tomb of the famous boy King Tut. Death will come quickly on wings for those who disturbs the king peace, reads the widely shared warning. But according to former antiques minister, there is no such thing as the curse of the pharaohs. I don't know. I watched this documentary on the sarcophagi that they've been opening. I'm all for Robin Graves. I've said that.
It's true.
I'm still out on that. I'd like that known. I'm still out on that.
I'm fine with Robin Graves. You start fucking with pharaohs that are 2,000 sarcophagi. Anything that's a guy at the end, like not Gus, but guy, like multiple sarcophagi.
We're talking about like biblical type proportions here with these plagues and disasters, and I don't want to mess with that as a whole. So I understand what you're saying.
I don't even. You never know. There could be locusts and shit that come out.
If the pharaohs were as good at curses as we think they are, then why aren't there any more pharaohs? I think pharaohs are little bitches, to be honest.
Oh, I don't. I think pharaohs
They're all
are
dead.
Beautiful.
Where are they?
And however, they are selfish. I mean, some of these documentaries that I've watched where you'll have not even like the pharaoh. I understand if you're the pharaoh, you're the king of everything that's going on. Like you, essentially, if you're an old world Egypt king, like everything in the world revolves around you. So I get that. But you would have even like the third, fourth, fifth person in the chain of command on Egypt's side. How fucked up is it to be like, oh, I died, my wife, my kids, all my animals, bury all those fuckers alive with me?
Yeah, that's a little too much. That's a bridge too far, as they might say.
And did you know the more exotic the cat, the better it was for like the next life? So they recently did this one. I think it was this fella that they interviewed here. They were over in Egypt and they were going through all these different tombs and stuff. They go down there. They find sarcophagus inside like lion cubs. Like they buried baby lion cubs in there so that would be like the protectors going across the eternal waters or whatever.
You know, it's crazy too. We could sit here and everyone obviously has different beliefs about what happens in the afterlife, if there is one, if there isn't one, but no one obviously can say what is correct and what isn't. So we can't even sit here and say like, oh, this is ridiculous that they're being buried with live animals to take them with them into the afterlife, because that's stupid. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe we need to start looking into other things we should be buried with just to take with you to the afterlife.
What do you want to be buried with? Connor, sounds like you got some ideas. What do you got?
I actually hadn't thought about it, but I guess I don't know.
I see you buried with a football.
Yeah.
I need a football that we should get like put in position, like taxidermied. Like I could, like, how happy would Connor be if he got, let's say, taxidermied into the Heisman Trophy pose?
That'd be amazing. Bury me with my golf clubs. I want to be able to golf when I'm dead.
Yeah, like you could do all kind, or a salute, like for those of you that really were fired up about Vice President Harris, you could give her the what for in death by saluting. That I think that a lot of people would like that. But they go on to say the Pharaoh's Golden Parade is going to be on April 3rd, and they will transfer 22 mummies, including longtime stoolie King Ramses II, King Sekran Ra, King Tutmosis II, the set of the first Queen Hasputin, and Queen Ramet Amun, which is a big day.
How fucked up is it though that you're dead and you like think you're in your eternal resting place, and then like 2,000 years later, some dudes with some awesome mustaches and like a gas lantern come by and just take your fucking body. It's like,
these people, I know you're doing a little Indiana Jones goofing. These folks that are working on the sarcophagi and like unearthing all these things, they look like they just fucking pulled them off the street. Like, they look like they got no damn training.
They don't look professional at all.
It looked like they went and got Randy and Hank from like some place in Cairo and like, hey, go dig this shit out. And they just got picked up by TaskRabbit to go. They're not like archaeologists or anything like that. It's just random folks digging in the side of the mountain until they find something, which, I mean, I guess that's cool and everything, but they want us to know that there's no such thing. There's not going to be a parade of mummy spirits that go by. But if you look on the face, like we'll post this dude's picture, I don't believe anything that he says. This guy that they're saying that assures us that there's no pharaohs that are going to leak out from these tombs.
No, you can't promise me that. Looks like a
fellow who's fucked a ghost.
Is it Zoe Hawass?
Yeah, it's that guy.
I think I know him from like Old School History Channel when they did history. He was the dude for Egypt. He's the premier Egyptologist. Oh yeah. No, this is the guy. Yeah.
And he's the one, like if he shows up on site for these mummies, people are like, oh shit. That's like playing at Rucker Park and Jordan shows up.
He might have been mummified, actually.
He's the Michael Jordan of the mummy game.
He is. He's really the Tom Brady of mummies.
Which isn't a bad thing to be. I mean, but if you're out there all day long and you're doing a little goofing at the sites, you might want to be, you're going to be hungry. So if you are hungry, go with Trifecta Nutrition. Trifecta Nutrition is the best meal prep on earth. All their meal plans are created by chefs and nutritionists to help get the best shape of your life. It makes the meal prep not suck. Because if you are doing meal prep and eating healthy and you're making one person, like if you're by yourself or just with another person, cooking is difficult, like for those smaller portions, because you just have to save so much stuff. You don't have to worry about that with Trifecta Nutrition. You don't have to worry about all the waste or any of that stuff. Just go to trifectanutrition.com/0 for this exclusive offer where you're going to get 40% off meal prep codes. They have everything you could possibly need. If you're one of those weirdos who eats nothing but vegan shit, shout out Bailey. If you do that kind of stuff, then you'll have it here. Paleo, keto, I bet they even have like the Atkins diet. The Atkins diet, by the way, those cookies, legit good.
Oh,
do you remember those? The little Atkins cookies that would come out like the devil's food cake or whatever?
Yes, I do.
I wonder if Trifecta Nutrition, if they have those and they've been holding out on the ones they send, I'm going to be furious. TrifectaNutrition.com, promo code 0 to get 40% off your next order. Round number 2. Last week we talked about that armed fella. What was his name? Larry Johnson?
Larry. Yeah, it was Larry.
Larry Harris.
Larry Harris.
Oh, Larry Harris. Larry Harris pulled a gun on some National Guard members and was like, don't you dare even think about giving people the coronavirus vaccine, of which I believe everybody but Kate on ZBT has at least their first round of the vaccine.
Correct.
I'm fully done. You and I, chaps, are fully done.
Yeah, I'm fully done. I'm fully vaccinated. I think I have one more week for it to be fully kicked in. Kate being kind of irresponsible now that she's a mother, not being vaccinated.
Yeah.
Kind of suspect.
Right. Call the CPS.
So a group of armed vigilantes cut down a tree and dragged it across a man's driveway in Maine to force him to quarantine in his home amid fears he could be infected with the coronavirus. So these dudes cutting down trees, blocking them in amid fears. They don't have like confirmed that he has coronavirus, and they're treating him like he has fucking leprosy.
Is this in America?
It's in Maine. A man residing on Cripple Creek Road in Velland Haven, an island off the coast of Maine, called authorities at around 3:35 p.m. That's not exactly around 3:35. That is.
That's very precise.
Yeah, at around 3:37. Friday to report a group of people with guns who had cut down a large tree and dragged it in front of his driveway, blocking the access to the main road. The man said that he left his house to check his property when he noticed the cable went out. The unidentified man said that he retreated to his home and hailed the Coast Guard by using a VHF radio after a neighbor began yelling at him to get indoors and remain quarantined. What a fucking thing to go through. You're just hanging out on your property. You're like, oh shit, my cable's out. That is movie stuff where you know that somebody's about to come attack you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something, and I don't know that it might upset some listeners, but when I think of Maine, I think Maine is stuck in the 1800s, right? I feel like nothing bad that happens in this country makes its way to Maine. So I wouldn't expect to hear this story going on up there. I figure everybody's nice.
Right. I'm honest to God shocked that they even have coronavirus in Maine.
Yeah, that's what like the fact that it even made its way that far north is crazy.
Social distancing. Nobody's ever within 6 feet of each other in Maine.
Yeah, we all live miles from each other. It's not an issue.
Families, and like the next person is acres away.
Yeah. The only way you're going near somebody is if you're giving them some honey that you grew on your own property.
Oh, I'd love some of that honey. And also our guy Francis being from Maine. He's like the least Maine guy of all time.
Exactly. Yes.
Cole is in Maine now. Cole is a big time Maine guy. They said that the deputies have learned that there's a general belief by some island residents that Cripple Creek residents are supposed to be quarantined because they came here from another state and could have coronavirus. So they basically they think that Maine is essentially Australia, but instead of for criminals, it's for people with coronavirus. That's what we should have done, really, is had like a transport and been like, if you have coronavirus, you got to go to Maine.
Yeah.
They did that in New York with the nursing homes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that didn't work out too well. Sorry, not to joke.
Whether someone is a Maine resident or not, they have the right to free movement. Anyone who infringes upon that free movement is potentially violating the law. Wow. That's a strong statement from the sheriff. You can't actually kidnap people and hold them.
That's a bold take, but at least it's nice to know that they are following the laws in Maine. Nice.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you very much. The man and his two roommates have been living in Velland Haven for about 30 days since coming from out of state, authorities said. Several towns in Maine have asked seasonal residents and outside visitors to self-quarantine and prevent the spread of COVID-19. But now some of the residents are taking it upon themselves. I think if you are from Maine, like, and you're in this rural ass part of Maine, like you're not even like city Maine. You're not like any of the big towns where they have like LL Bean or anything like that.
Bangor.
But you pull up to one of these spots. If I live in one of those spots, I'd be on the coronavirus task force. What else are you going to do?
Yeah, seriously. There's nothing else to do on Saturday mornings.
Fucking Ben rolls into town on a boat thinking he's going to stay in an island just to escape it, and he's not going to follow our rules about self-quarantining. Oh, no. I'm cutting trees down.
I got to tell you got to be really bored, though, too, because that's laborious work.
Oh, yeah. Felling trees is no easy task.
Yeah, trees are heavy.
Yeah, but I guess if you're felling trees in Maine, it's not your first one.
Probably not. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? That's a great point. They do this already in some capacity in their lives.
They probably do it as like an involuntary, we breathe involuntary response. They just they see a tree, they just start cutting it down. They're like, oh, what are you doing?
Clear this out.
This tree down.
Yeah,
got to.
This tree. Yeah.
Why? Well, no reason really. None at all.
It's just what we do here in Maine.
But see, that's what I'm talking about too. People taking the matters into their own hands is something that you would do in the 1800s.
It definitely is. Also, I saw this article, and this isn't something new. Like, there's been around these kind of stories for round number 3 have been around forever, where somebody gets pissed off at like a credit card company that charges them too much interest or something like that. So you dump a thing of pennies or dump a thing of nickels on their desk, and they have to count them all. Well, a mechanic shop in Georgia went the other way with that. A Georgia man has accused his former employer of a selfish move after he received his final payment of $915 in pennies. I wish Kate was here because I can make her guess how many pennies that was. Andreas Flatten discovered the haul of 90,000 coins, which were covered in oily, greasy substance at the bottom of his driveway. On top of the pile was his final pay slip with an explicit parting message from the car workshop where he worked. This guy must have been a shitbag. I mean, because nothing against mechanics, but if you're in the mechanic trade, you've seen some shit, and you're not exactly an altar boy for the most part. If you're a mechanic, would you guys agree with that?
I don't know how we're making that leap, to be very honest with you.
Yeah.
No, you're a blue collar worker of any type. Like any type, you're not exactly the type of people to fuck with. Like you're a mechanic.
Yeah.
When I see a mechanic, I think of somebody who is tatted the fuck up, who's ripping heaters, who is just wants to don't bother me. I just want to get out here and work on the cars. I'm working this because I don't want to work in an office. I don't want to be around people. The only people I want to be around are my cars. That's it. That's how I view most mechanics. So this dude, in order to be in this type of environment where he gets all the other mechanics so fired up, he must have been a big old shitbag. Mr. Flatten left his job in November and claims he had encountered a difficulty receiving payment. He now spends his nights gradually cleaning the pennies so he can cash them in. And it took him an hour and a half to make a few hundred of the coins even usable. And he has 90,000 to go. This is the reason why I brought this up on a military podcast. I believe when you achieve the rank of staff NCO, when you're finally a staff NCO or you're captain and above, for every rank that you get above that from staff NCO up, so like for E7s, as soon as you go E7, E8, or Marine Corps E6 to E7, whatever, you get to pick 4 people in your chain of command that are in your chain of authority that you get to do this to for their final paycheck in the military. That if they are skating by so much and they're just being shitbags, that their last payment is oil-covered pennies.
Yeah. I guess I need to know what he did to deserve this, to warrant this. And also, I need to know where this gentleman went to get that many pennies. Because I don't think there's any local bank.
If you're a mechanic, you got access to oily pennies all day.
Yeah, but that many? I mean,
how long this place? Now that's how you know this fella that owned the mechanic shop is really pissed, because I could see you having an oily penny jar. Like, and every time Susan brings in her Honda Civic that had, like, she left the Coke in there too long and it ate through the bottom of the plastic or the paper cup, and then the pennies that were in there got all nasty, and you have a penny jar, you end up with 90,000 pennies of those pennies, and then you give it to somebody, and you've been saving all those gross pennies for years. You'd be furious. That's like a whole new level of mad.
So one thing I've been doing for, maybe the last 10 years is I'm trying to fill a 5-gallon water jug with coins. Mm-hmm. And that was hard enough as it was, because I'm not a cash guy really. So the only way you're getting coins is if you're getting change at a store, or if you see a penny or an any coin walking and you pick it up. It's taken a while, and I'm nowhere near. It's like I'm like
one of my buddies did that, and they had like $6 or $7 grand in there because he did it with like quarters and stuff.
Yeah,
my uncle did that. They went to Disney with like all their 5 kids. Crazy.
Wow. Yeah. No. Jeez. So I'm really doing it more out of just as something to accomplish, like so I can say, hey, I filled this up.
What about so you have a year. What about you round up, like, and you make an actual attempt to pay everything in cash. Mm-hmm. For the next year, like that, whenever you go out, you pay cash. Anytime you get change, you dump it in that box. Then that could go to whatever you do for like your groomsmen gifts.
That's a thought. That's one way to get there. I haven't given really much thought in terms of what I'm actually going to do for that, but that is an idea. I don't know, but the last year being quarantined for X amount of months, whatever, that really put a damper on things because nobody wanted to take cash or even use it. So it really put a slowdown in my operation. I'm making a lot of excuses here, and I need to stop making excuses and make solutions.
You do, and we have some solutions that we need to do in round number 4 as well. This is a little Ask ZBT segment. This is some questions specifically for us. The first one, Hey guys, I'm a senior airman and graduated top of my class at boot camp. My mom cried when she found out. When I found out she cried, I then too cried. I'd like to thank Chaps for making crying okay again. People called me a pussy my whole life, but now I know that they're the pussies, not me. Anyway, I have a really great rabbit named Wesley. Wesley loves me more than anything, and he also loves to be outdoors. He's a massive English lop, bigger than cats, so he can be outdoors fully, freely, and safely. Problem is, I had to move to a desert town because my husband is military. I left him in his green paradise with my grandmother, who has chickens and can care for him, spoil him properly. He's really more of a farm rabbit, truly very different from rabbits in this subreddit. No offense to the way that you guys keep your pets. I want him to live here with my grandmother, where he can run freely in the lush green organic grass and the clovers she keeps for him. But I truly miss him so much. He was really my big little buddy, followed me all around the yard. I want to bring him to the States, but I feel like it would be a terrible selfish move for me to move where he has to live in the barracks. Should I just accept what's best for him isn't with me? After all, what's the most important part of a animal relationship? Making decisions that doesn't put your feelings first, but your animals. What should I do?
Are we sure that wasn't a story you just concocted in your own head?
No, that's definitely not what it was.
You swear to God that was a real submission, because we can't.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's not real.
As soon as it took the turn to the bunny, that's when I knew we were in for something there.
That would be tough, though. I mean, if you get a new troop and they want to have their rabbit, and there's a no rabbit rule in the barracks, that's tough.
Yeah, but see, I feel like a rabbit might be one of those animals that is not actually explicitly said you can't have this. So you might find a loophole that you could bounce through.
It won't last long.
All right, so that rabbit goofing story wasn't good. Here's another one. Let's try again. Number 2. This is my first time writing into you guys, and I'm trying to practice OPSEC as much as I can, but bear with me because I'm a civilian. I'm 16 years old and a female and live with my mom, who's 45 years old, and my stepdad, who's 29 and a specialist in the Army. Hua. My parents have been married for around 5 years, and it was really a love marriage. Mostly the relationship between all of us are fine. We have arguments like any other family, but we also have plenty of high points. My mom is a makeup artist and a hairstylist. She mostly gets work in when she has to travel long distances. In 2018, my mom started acting weird in the house. She would always be on her phone. She had never been like this before. If we asked her to do something, she would always help us out. But this time she'd be, let me be, I'm tired, I'm on the phone. She would spend little to no time with me and my dad because he used to work full time. So he used to come home when my mom was already in bed. So anyways, she would always smirk while being on her phone. She'd type all the time, wear shirts that barely covered her warlocks. That's what she called her tits, and I hate it. And whenever we asked for her phone, she straight scream at us and push us out.
This is ridiculous.
How much 3Chi did you consume?
Well, one day I caught her leaving the room when somebody called her. Warlocks. By this time, I was really suspicious that she was cheating on my dad. She went to another room and closed the door. I stood outside and overheard her talking to a guy, whom we'll call Ben. And her conversation with her was something I would never want to hear. She was constantly saying, I love you, and when should I come meet you? You know, all that stuff. Keep in mind, Ben lives in another state. I'm not American, but I want to be. If my dad can defend the Constitution, I want to be a citizen under that kind of leadership. I was really disturbed. I really love my parents, and they loved each other. They loved each other for a long time. And my dad has always treated my mom like a queen. Even during times we're short on money, I could hear them making love in our room, and it was beautiful. I don't know. I still don't know where the relationship went wrong. I've caught her speaking with Ben many times and have read some of their text messages, and they're racy to say the least. Again, mentioning the Warlocks. In 2019, after building a lot of courage, I had a conversation with my mom. Me. Who's Ben? My mom said, he's just a friend. Just a friend? Are you sure? Yes. Mom, I've read your message with Ben. Don't try to fool me. Listen, honey, we're just friends. Now go away. and she laughed it off while I cried in bed. It's 2021 now. My mom still talks to Ben, but not as much because of the COVID situation. Dad's deployed, and she isn't getting a lot of work. And even when she does, she's not able to go. So their conversations have decreased, but aren't completely over. I've tried talking with my mother many times on why she cheated on my dad. For more information, he's not an alcoholic. He's not abusive. He's always on my mom's side whenever she has a fight with her in-laws. He's a great husband, a great father, and from what I can tell, an excellent lover. My mom always shrugs the conversation off by saying we're just friends. I really can't take this anymore. All the time I'm just thinking about one thing. If somebody else sticking my mom like my dad used to, is my mom a barracks rat? What do you guys think?
Oh my God, what's wrong with you?
Give this person some advice. They need some advice, guys.
Ah, yeah. Clearly
What is wrong with your brain? Yeah, your mom's probably sleeping around. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry. Move on. Get your own life.
All right, that's disappointing advice, I gotta say. All right, the third question.
Oh my God.
Do twins have identical penises? Like, let's say you have Robin and Brooke Lopez. You say, pull those trousers down, fellas. You see their dicks. Are they identical?
I think they have to be, don't they? Like,
what about lady tits for those lady twins?
Yeah, they got to be. I mean, if it's like a twin, they're like a self or
butthole
self copy.
Spokes. All right.
Now that might be, since those are like fingerprints. I'm going to say no.
But twins have the same fingerprints.
Do they?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, yeah.
Don't.
No,
yes, they do. They have the same
way.
DNA. Yeah. DNA strands are the same.
But
they do. Look it up.
All right,
okay, I'm gonna.
I'm doing it right now.
Don't you
I think
do twins
There's
have
no
the
way.
same fingerprints? Do identical twins have
Nope. Identical twins
they do
all
not
have unique
one.
fingerprints.
No.
Yeah.
See?
No.
What's up?
Let's see. Let's say DNA.
They don't have the same DNA.
Let's say DNA. Nope, they don't. All right,
science.
number 4. The fourth
there's
one.
more. Okay, there's more.
All right, so this one's the last one. This one is truly penises. All right, so penises should be measured by volume instead of by length.
Agreed.
Let me explain. Western culture has popularized the outdated unit of inches as the common benchmark for comparing penis sizes. However, we're advancing towards being a multi-planetary species. A single axis measurement for a 3D object of us all possesses is medieval and simply cannot fit for our current use. I suggest a new unit, millimeters. However, if this becomes popularly adopted, I wish to be credited. Please state the unit of penis size as Venus penis points, as I am certainly the first individual to suggest it. The penis, this is how they want to measure penises. And I think that this is brilliant.
Who's they?
Some random Reddit person. So you have a cup, right? You have a cup.
Okay.
And the penis is inserted into a measuring cup until it cannot be inserted further. Then, with your dick in the cup, you fill that cup up with water. You remove the dick from the cup. And then for every milliliter of displaced penis water is 1 point. So then you would know how big the dick actually is based on volume by how much water it moves to the side.
I'm going to agree with that Redditor.
Cons?
Sure. That we can do that.
Yeah. Everyone get to it. Start shoving your dicks in cups of water.
I wish Woody Williams was here. He would have had a lot more fun with that conversation. We need Kate back. Here's Woody Williams, the last living Marine who was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions on Iwo Jima on the 76th anniversary of the defeat of the Japanese at the hands of the Marines there. Here's Woody Williams. Well, now in Zero Block 30, I am privileged to have Medal of Honor recipient, fantastic man. He lives in West Virginia, born and bred. He is Woody Williams. We are so happy to have you, Mr. Williams. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, certainly my pleasure, chaps.
So I want to talk to you and go back to the 1940s, because you didn't just try to join the Marine Corps right when things were getting going, right at Pearl Harbor. You tried to join a little bit before, right?
Well, no. In 1941, when Pearl Harbor was struck, I happened to be in what was called the Civilian Conservation Corps.
Okay.
And in that corps, that group, you could go in when you were 16 years old. And President Roosevelt started that program nationwide to try to give the youth something to do where they could possibly learn a trade, because the Depression was on. There were just no jobs, and a bunch of young people didn't have anything to do. So it ended up there about, 700,000 of us served in the Civilian Conservation Corps. So I was in Montana, Whitehall, Montana, the day that Pearl Harbor was bombed. And they called us out the day after, on the 8th. There were about 265 of us in that camp. And those camps were run by the Army. We had a commanding officer. We had a first sergeant and a best sergeant, and a few Army clerks that did all the administrative work. And they called us out and told us that we were going to war. And of course, President Roosevelt had already announced that. And that we had a choice. If we were over 18 years of age, we could go direct into the Army. We wouldn't have to even go home. But I was only 17. And if under 18, of course, you had to have parent consent. And my mother lived back in West Virginia. My father was already deceased. So there was no way in the world I could ever get consent. So I took the option of coming home. And after I got home, I wanted to join, still at 17. But my mother would not sign my paper to give me permission. So I had to wait until I was 18. And 1 month after my 18th birthday in October, I went into the town, and there was one building where all the services were gathered, all the branches of services. And I wanted to be a Marine. I didn't want to be an Army guy. I didn't want to wear that ugly Army uniform. So I wanted
Same
to be
for
a
me.
Marine. Instead of dress boots and all that. And so when I filled out my paper and gave it to the Marine, he didn't even, I don't think, looked at my paper, he just looked at me, and he said, "You're too short. I can't take you." And they did have a height requirement at that time of 5'8" or better. So I went back to the farm. There wasn't anything else I could do. And I would have eventually been drafted and ended up in the Army, of course. But in early 1943, the Marine Corps already would begin having casualties because of Guadalcanal, which was hit in 42. And of course, lots of campaigns were planned, apparently. So they lowered the height requirement. And that Marine, I am sure, turned down a great number of us, because in our community, we had a lot of Italian people, and they mostly were short like me. They didn't meet that height requirement either. So he came to the farm and looked me up and said, "Do you still want to go to the Marine Corps?" And I said yes. And okay.
See, and that's when recruiting gets tough. We have that same type of thing now, where they, at first, if you had a certain amount of tattoos, they weren't letting you in. A couple years into the War on Terror, they're like, "Well, maybe we'll let a few people in with tattoos." So
yeah. So At 43, I finally shipped off. We had a waiting period back then. There were so many people taking 2 people into the Marine Corps from each county. And 2 of us from my county, and then we had 2 other guys from adjoining counties, and 6 of us got selected to go into the Marine Corps. And instead of going to Parris Island, which we should have gone because we were East Coast, they sent us all the way to San Diego because Parris Island was getting so many people they couldn't find drill instructors and didn't have housing and that sort of thing. So they began shipping trainloads of people to California.
So when you were actually on the boats and getting ready to start doing the island hopping campaigns, did you have any inclination about what to expect? Were your intelligence briefs good? Or were you basically you get off the ship and it's time to fight?
Basically, that was it. But we were fortunate in my platoon. We did have, we had 3 drill instructors. And 2 of those individuals had already been in Guadalcanal. So they were combat experienced, and that was beneficial because they were talking the reality of combat. But you take the other drill instructors that have never been overseas yet, they couldn't help them. So as you said, you didn't know what you were going to get into when you went to the beach.
So with men like that, whenever you have, I assume, guys like John Basilone that were on the ship that had this reputation, were you already looking at the people who had been in Guadalcanal and thinking, thank goodness they're here so we have a little bit of experience on our side?
I don't know that we thought that way, but when they was teaching us or talking to us, particularly those 2 individuals, they could talk in reality. And warn you and give you basic information of things not to do to be safe, not get yourself killed. So that was helpful.
And I think of somebody like yourself, whenever I heard stories or I'd read stories and see it on documentaries and things like that, of people who were flamethrowers, essentially, of being big guys because they weigh 70 pounds. And I would think you would be almost like a machine gunner now where you want to be bigger and stockier. So when I hear your story being turned away for being on the smaller side, it's mind-blowing that that's the job that you were picked for.
Well, most of us, there were actually 7 of us in this special weapons unit that was set up on Guadalcanal. In January of 44, we received these huge wooden crated boxes, and we had no idea what they were, what was in those. But when we opened them up, there was a piece of equipment none of us had ever seen before, a flamethrower. We didn't know what it was or how to use it.
And it's not like you could go on YouTube and check it out.
That's exactly right. And it didn't have any manual of how to use it in combat. It did have a manual that showed you all the part numbers and how to take it apart and put it together. And it came with a powdered phosphorus, a powder that had phosphorus in it. And that was what you were supposed to use in those flamethrowers. You'd mix that with gasoline and it would turn into a gel, a sticky, real sticky gel. Well, if you got that on your body or you got it on the enemy, the phosphorus continued to burn. And there was no way you could brush it off. You could even stick your hand underwater. If you got it on your hand, you could stick your hand underwater and the phosphorus still burned. It didn't make any difference, you know. So that was the material that they sent us. But it was a single stream, like a water stream out of a water hose. And you only had 72 seconds of fluid in your flamethrower, 4.5 gallons of stuff. And the air tank would force it out in 72 seconds. So by the time when you're trying to hit a target with it and you can't aim, you're firing from the hip. You know, now you can't sight it like a rifle.
Yeah, there's no iron sights on that thing.
That's right. No sights. You'd be out of fluid before you'd ever find the target if it wasn't a big thing. So my gunnery sergeant, who happened to be a China Marine, he was in China during the Depression years in the 30s. He began experimenting with other stuff, other kinds of fluids, and we finally ended up with diesel fuel and airplane gasoline. And
my goodness,
a mixture of that he worked it out, and he was satisfied with it, and that's what we used.
Now, I imagine just knowing Marines, because we like to think of you guys, the Iwo Jima veterans, where you are just stoic warriors. But I know deep down inside, the first time you guys lit that thing on fire, everybody started to cheer. And you're like, oh, yeah.
That's right. You are absolutely right. It was something we had never experienced before. And because of the mixture of gasoline, of course, gasoline, if you just throw it or send it out under pressure, once it hits wind resistance, it stops. It doesn't go very far. So the diesel fuel gave it body so that it would go farther. But even at that, if you fired it into the air, say body height or head height, it still wouldn't go anywhere because the wind resistance would catch it and it just stopped. And so this gunnery sergeant came up with the idea of firing it 15, 20 yards in front of you on the ground into a great big orange fireball and rolling that ball into a cave or a pillbox. And I don't know whether any other units use that system or not. I have no idea. I've watched some of the film that looks like they're firing about body level. And what they were using in the way of fluid to give it body, I have no idea.
And using a weapon like that has got to be, for the person on the other end of the trigger, horrific. Like the things that you see, and seeing that you wear the medal still, you're wearing the medal today for those that are listening while they're driving to work or doing whatever they're doing. I look at somebody like you and imagine telling a story like yours over and over again for 70 years now has got to take a toll mentally. Did you ever feel like you were able to really heal from those moments by having to replay essentially the worst day of your life over and over again, or days of your life?
Well, we didn't know anything about PTS. That wasn't something that we had come up with yet. In World War II, the diagnosis of a person who had some PTS, as we call it today, we called it psychoneuroses. And of course, most people in combat had some form of that to some degree. But the best thing that happened to me, really, was that by virtue of having the Medal of Honor, I became a public figure. I had to participate in public. I was expected to tell my story. I was expected to associate and answer questions and have programs like you and I are doing today, only we did it by radio or speech. And that's the best thing that ever happened to me because it was a therapy. I couldn't keep it pinned up inside of me because I had to talk about it. And that helped. It really did.
So you've basically been doing group therapy for 75 years.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but it really was beneficial to me. And but it still took many years to finally get it to the point where it didn't keep me awake anymore.
Okay, good. And I've talked to Kyle Carpenter a few times about this same type of thing because you were a young man when you received the Medal of Honor as well. It's got to be almost at days where you didn't want to talk about things that happened and you had to put on a happy face just because you were aware of the medal. And now being the last Marine from World War II that's still with us is just, your life has just been so remarkable. When you look around at America now, Do you have any wisdom that you would like to impart on our younger listeners of things that they could do better to be better people?
Well, somewhere I feel, chaps, that we have lost our value of our country, our patriotism. We don't look at America today like we did in World War II, World War I, or World War II, and for that matter, Korea or Vietnam. We're not looking at the same world through the eyes of our youth today that even you look through in Fallujah, because our values are changing or have changed so rapidly. We're losing that high respect and regard for the very freedom that we have and the privilege of living in such a great country as America. And I don't know how to restore that. If I'm anxious about the fact that we can't gather together as a united people like we were in previous years. I think, and I've said this many times in many places, I believe we're more divided today than we have ever been, other than the Civil War. And these riots and things that are going on today just further convinces me that somehow we've got to restore in America the true America that we all want to have and true Americans that we want to be.
And you do a lot of that with your foundation, focusing on the relationships that you build with Gold Star families and those that are sacrificing for the ability to express freedom of speech and freedom of protest and things like that. Can you tell us about why your passion shifted so much to the Gold Star families?
Well, if I could back up for just a moment, the Gold Star mothers were started in World War I, as you no doubt know. And for years, we talked a lot about, and many communities paid tribute and honor to Gold Star mothers. But no one ever mentioned any other part of the family. And in a few years back, probably around 2010 or that period, I was speaking to a group of senior citizens, and we had Gold Star mothers in the group. Some of those mothers had lost loved ones in the Death March, in the Japan Death March, and in the Philippines when it was captured. So we paid proper tribute to them. And after this whole thing was over, and one man stayed in the hall, and I asked him, could I be of some help to him? And he walked up to me and tears were flowing down his cheeks. And I had talked about Gold Star mothers over and over and over because they suffered the loss of a loved one, their own. And when he walked up to me, all he said to me was, "Dads cry too." And I had never mentioned Dad. And all the effort that we'd made or the talks that we'd given and whatever, no one had ever mentioned Dad. And I decided at that time, we've got a memorial on our Capitol grounds that has 11,434 names on it, and every one of those sacrificed their life in the armed forces. We certainly have paid proper tribute to them, but we didn't do anything to pay honor and tribute to their families. And it's the families that's left behind who are suffering, who are grieving, who has an empty place at the table. So I decided we must do something to honor our own in West Virginia, and we did that in 2013, built the first Gold Star Family Memorial ever constructed in the United States of America, in this little state of West Virginia. And we did it for our own, thinking that's all we're going to do. When we applied for our program, nonprofit, they said, you got to have a goal. I said, okay, goal will be one of these in every state.
See, they shouldn't even be able to tell you what you need. You should be able to say, I want to start a foundation. And they say, Mr. Williams, okay. You clear your flamethrower on Iwo Jima. You get to start any foundation you want to.
But other states began to pick it up. And the second one, really, Valley Forge. Can you think of a more appropriate place than Valley Forge?
Right.
It was the son of a father that had lost his life in Vietnam that said, well, we need one of these in our community to represent our Gold Star families, you know. And then it began to move forward. And today, not because of what I did, it's because what the communities are doing. People in communities, if you give them the opportunity and the right circumstances, they will do anything to serve our country, help it in some way, rather than destroy it. And today, in 45 states, we've already have a monument completed. And we're going to get the others before we're finished. It's just a matter of time. But we've got 70 more in process. Mm. So I'm so proud of our little state of West Virginia, because right now we already have 7, and 5 more on the books or in the process. So we're going to end up with 12. And at that point, if we get those completed next year, we'll be ahead of any other state in the union.
Well, that'll be 2 things that you guys have: the best fall leaf changes and the first dedicated memorial to all the fallen families.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you one more question about Iwo. When you all were coming back, when the island campaigns were over, because I think a lot of people lose sight that they see such a monumental moment in the raising of the flag on Mount Suribachi. But that wasn't the end of the island campaign for you guys. You guys had to pick up from Iwo and move on and continue island hopping. But when it was finally done and you were on your way home, did you have any idea what you had accomplished and that you would be the backbone of the legacy of the United States Marine Corps?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It was Iwo Jima, as far as we were concerned, was just another campaign. We had been in Guam the year before, in July and August, and we had taken Guam back from the enemy. And this was just another campaign. The thing that made it iconic, I think, was Old Glory. The fact that she was on a mountaintop where everybody on the island could see her. Now, we put a flag up on every island we ever captured, you know. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't, once you got out of the area, you couldn't see it. It's out of mind, out of sight. But with Mount Suribachi, you couldn't miss it. I mean, it's the highest point on the whole island, and the island was only, you know, it was only 2.5 miles wide and 4.5 miles long. So you can see 4.5 miles if it's up in the air. And so I think it was the flag that made it such an iconic situation, more so than just taking the island.
Oh, no doubt about it. Mr. Williams, I don't want to take up too much of your time. It's such an honor to be able to interview you and speak with you man to man, person to person. And again, for the legacy that you've left behind and for the things that you do now currently. Like, I don't know if a lot of people know, but Kyle Carpenter and I sat at the Coca-Cola 600 a couple years ago. And I asked him some of the same questions that I asked you today about what it was like receiving the Medal of Honor and having almost some of the burden that was there. And he told me, he said, you know, I had men like Woody Williams reach out to me after I found out that I was going to receive the Medal of Honor. And he kind of took me under his wing and told me what to expect a little bit. And I thought that kind of thing is what goes unnoticed. It's the type of leadership that happens behind the scenes. And it really is what makes people like you and your generation very special. And I hope that while everything that's going on that's so turbulent in America right now, we can receive some of that sacrifice to take some of the things that we have for granted and look at the future and say, you are the future. Just like Kyle Carpenter is going to be sitting in your seat 60 years from now, talking to some other bald-headed veteran about the things that he accomplished in Marja. And I hope that it continues to go on because of legacies like people like you, Mr. Williams.
Yes, and we must not ever forget those of today. We're still having Americans sacrifice their life for somebody else and for a cause greater than themselves. And when they first started talking about having an all-volunteer forces, I was the doubting Thomas. I really was. I didn't think we would ever be able to have enough true Americans who are willing to sign an oath and go to combat, not knowing if they're ever going to get back home. But it has worked and worked beautifully, and you still have those individuals who sacrifice their life for somebody else. But that, you can't get any better than that so far as loyalty is concerned.
Absolutely right. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
All
right, let's move on to save rounds and alibis. I'm going to start. I saw this video this week that was going around because there's a lot of Asian hate and the awareness of Asian hate that has been talked about on social media quite frequently. There was this video of a man who is a veteran of the U.S. military, and he gave his perspective at a city council meeting, and his words were beyond powerful. Here he is in his own words.
I'm 69 years old, and I'm going to show you what patriotism, the questions about patriotism looks like. Here is my proof. This is sustained through my service in the U.S. military. Now, is this patriot enough? I'm not ashamed to walk around anymore. Before I felt inhibited. People look at me strange. And they to question me, my loyalty to this country. I don't look American enough. Now, last I read the U.S. Constitution, we the people, we are all the same. We are equal. Not this, you are more superior, you are not.
I can't imagine what that must be like to be somebody like this gentleman who sacrificed just as much as anyone else who has ever worn the uniform, and then to be treated as a second-class citizen because you don't, quote, look American enough is such bullshit. It goes against everything who we should be.
Mm-hmm. And especially when you consider, this country is so diverse. What does an American look like? I don't think an American looks one way or another.
Shouldn't, right? Like, that's the whole point.
Right. Yeah, no. And I mean, there was I don't want to say jarring image, but certainly a powerful image when he showed those scars.
Uh-huh.
So that was very, very
those
moving.
Moments like that when somebody uses their real life experience. Tammy Duckworth did it whenever there was some big thing about Democrats not loving America or some shit like that, and she was like, I would like you to help me up a flight of steps when I don't have either one of my legs because I lost them in Afghanistan. Tell me that I don't love America enough, that I didn't love America enough. It's like, yeah, it's pretty hard when she doesn't have both of her legs because she was fighting for America.
Yep.
I think
pretty tough.
People get hung up on you have to love America in a very certain way. And if you don't, then you don't love America. Like, if you don't love it the same way I do, then you're obviously a bad person. And that's what, I saw the video of that gentleman, and it's tough to reconcile a lot of different things with what he experienced for everybody else.
And the last thing I want to mention is that the news of the big ship getting stuck made it so painfully obvious that so many civilians have zero idea of what military capabilities are. They showed this video of a helicopter, and they said that this helicopter is strong enough to lift an aircraft carrier. Like,
I'm sorry, what?
I might have been responsible for some of that.
Yeah, you probably were. You probably like dropping some seeds, but it's what is this, like Miss Frizzle's helicopter or something? Is it magic helicopter?
I'm gonna look up how much they actually weigh, and oh my God. Yeah. So the USS Gerald Ford fully loaded weighs 100,000 tons. Is how much
you can't even wrap your brain around that amount of weight because it's fake.
But I wonder if it's kind of like the balloons from Up. Like if you attached enough helicopters to an aircraft carrier, but you would probably have an air vacuum, right? Like it would create where you couldn't even fly.
Right. You know what though? We're not trying that yet, but it's brave that you're thinking about it.
I say fill it up with ping pong balls.
I mean, I don't know I'm surprised they didn't blow. That would have been my first. If I was like the on-scene commander, I'd just been like, just blow up the Evergreen. Just blow it up. Sink that thing. Fuck it.
That's a movie.
How deep is this? How deep is the canal? Like, I wonder if it would even.
I bet it's got to be 300 feet deep. I would bet.
No, they had to dig it. They had to dig that out. There's
right.
No
that's what I'm saying. So I don't think it's as deep as you think.
Well, all those got to go through it. It's got to be super deep.
No, do you realize
a lot of those boats don't go very deep? They don't
go deep into the ocean or the water.
I'm gonna try to find it. You guys keep going. All right, Kyle, what's your save round?
So I have two. One, baseball season is upon us. The St. Louis Cardinals left Jupiter, Florida, which is their home for spring training. First game is Thursday, opening day for Cincinnati. The Reds, they're playing. Pretty excited. Really enjoy baseball. I love it. Also coaching baseball again this season. Little announcement. If you're not the coach and you're at practice, just shut the fuck up. Just let the coach. Just unless you're encouraging the kids, don't correct them. No one cares that you used to play and you totally could have made it if your shoulder wouldn't have given out. Just shut up. You want to coach. So there's that.
Suez Canal, 79 feet deep.
Yeah, that's not deep at all.
That's not deep
at all.
That seems irresponsible to be letting those big ships go through there. They're liable to get one stuck.
They don't go that deep in, so they don't have to worry about it. Kyle, I hear you, man. You know what's interesting? Even if you are, let's say you played AA ball or even AAA, and you were something of a player back in your day. If you're not assigned to be the coach, be quiet. If you want to help, pull the coach aside, say, "Hey, coach, I played the game a little bit, but even that, I don't really care. If you want to give your time, that's great. Give your time. You want to coach your kid on the side, coach them on the side. Don't criticize the coaches."
Yeah, well, it's never that. It's just that they're like, trying to change what they're being taught. It's like, no. Let us do this. We know what we're doing. But, just a little rant. Also, we, or at least I, will never share your solicitations for famous people ball dates. Stop sending them. I just delete them. I fucking hate it. You dumb boots. Just no one wants to go to the ball with you.
What about if somebody tries to get Lil Nas?
No, I don't care. I have a zero tolerance policy for celebrity ball date shares.
What about JoJo Siwa?
Who?
JoJo Siwa.
What is that?
Wait, celebrity? You're saying celebrity what? Ball dates?
Ball guest.
Ball dates.
Like when people ask.
Oh.
So someone.
Help us retweet it and get their attention.
We could help this young Marine very easily because this one individual that he wants to take to the ball, Kate talks to somewhat regularly, I think.
Who? Say it.
You guys got. I'm doing a chaps. Guess who it is?
Jenny Johnson.
No, she's been on Barstool stuff.
Bella Danger.
Bella Danger.
So we could help them out. But you know what? When you have all your little shithead SOI buddies spam our inbox, not going to help you eat my dick.
Yeah, not going to help them. Cons, What do you got?
Two things quickly. Chet Hanks came out with a video. Regardless of the fact that he came directly at me in that video, what happened to Chet Hanks?
What happened? I don't even know.
He came out with a video and basically just said, rules for white boy summer and how we should act. And he's just such a weirdo. And you just wouldn't expect that as the son of Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is just so pure.
Jamaican accent?
No accent.
No, he lost it. Wow.
Yeah. I just don't understand
his brother's normal.
Exactly. He's a normal. He's an actor. He's successful. And then you have Chet. I don't get it.
Well, they named him Chet.
Well, that was probably their first mistake, setting him up for failure. And then I think I've mentioned this on here, and I'd imagine you two are going to be on the other side of this, but I'm tired of people talking about Waffle House. Okay. It stinks.
No, I agree.
Waffle House stinks.
I fucking hate Waffle House too.
Oh, thank you.
We might be the first.
I mean, if I'm going out to eat, I'm not going to get a thin waffle. Give me a Belgian waffle.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like these people, they're all like, "Oh, it's it's so delicious." Like the waffle is as thick of
it's like an overgrown Eggo. Like just get an Eggo. Like get it. Go to some place where you can get a huge Belgian waffle with like strawberries and whipped cream and bananas and all kinds of shit on it.
8 different syrups. And
then people are saying like, "Oh, it's not even necessarily about the food. It's about being able to go." Like, there's plenty of places that you can go at 2-3 in the morning. So don't tell me that's what makes Waffle House special. I don't think there's anything special about it.
I agree. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you again here on Tuesday. Nope. Whatever the fucking date is. My brain calendar is so messed up. We'll see you whenever my new one drops in your little inbox. Southern Retreat.